Arsenal are in the market for a midfielder, and it's now being said that we're right at the front of the line for an absolutely unbelievable player, a French international midfielder, a player that probably represents the best value for money out there in the midfield market at the minute. We're also going to be talking about Smith Rowe, tomiyasu, raphinha back to Arsenal. There's heavy links coming out in the last 24 hours. We're going to get into all of it. Before we do though, please just do me the favour. I hate to do it, but just hit thumbs up on this video. So the first guy I want to speak about is actually a player that I've heard quite a lot in my comment section. Youssouf Fofana. What do you think of Youssouf Fofana? Look, I've always replied to them comments. I think Youssouf Fofana is a brilliant player if we can get it done. You know, over the last 24, 48 hours, heavy links are coming in. Arsenal, front of the queue. Arsenal, favourites to sign Youssouf Fofana. And this could be on a cut price deal. We could pick him up for £20 million. He's only got 12 months left on his contract. So if you're looking at the market and saying what is the best value for money, and look, you don't always need to be shopping for value for money. But in the case of Youssouf Fofana, I think you're actually getting a brilliant player. Like I said, you're getting a French international. France are probably the strongest team in the Euros. They're probably the strongest team in the world right now. France are unbelievable. So to be a player that even gets in the French squad, you have to have something about you. He's been a brilliant player for Monaco. He can play a couple of roles. You know, he can play in the 6. He can play at the 8. And I actually think he can play further forward as well. I do think he's a very good player. Look, if you've watched Youssouf Fofana more than me, let me know what kind of player we'd be getting. Let me know if he would fit into this Arsenal team. And let me know if you think it's a good deal. Me looking at it and saying, look at the value, 20 million. Look at the player. Of course I've watched Monaco play. Of course I've seen Youssouf Fofana play. I think he's a good player. I think he can improve Arsenal's team. Look, there's going to be midfielders in Arsenal's team, you know, that need replacing. We've seen Jorginho sign a new deal, but I've said, and many of you guys have said as well, we probably need to roll back his minutes. It's probably a player that we should offer less minutes to, but he still needs to be in and around the team. We know what Jorginho can offer to this squad, and if he needs to come in for a few games, that's fine. We saw him this season, the main one being Liverpool. We come in against Liverpool, man of the match. So Jorginho does have qualities. But we also need to be cognizant of the fact that he's not the long-term option, is he? You can't look at Jorginho and say, like, this is the midfielder for the next 5 years, which is what you could get with Fofana, who is only 25 years old. He turned 25 in January. So you're still getting a young profiler player without being so young. He's not so green. I think he has development in him. I think he has improvement in him. And I think Arteta would be the right manager to get him to where he needs to be. But I still think you have a solid player. Like I said, plenty of experience, plenty of big games. And if I'm looking at Youssouf Fofana and then I look at Arteta and I think, what can this guy do with him? I think he can mould him into still whatever he wants because he is big, he is strong, he is athletic, he's good on the ball, his body shape, very good at holding up the ball. So I think he has qualities that could definitely complement this Arsenal team. Like I said, there's midfielders in that Arsenal team that we need to get rid of. There was a 22-man list today, or 20. There was some women in there as well. 22 players that have been released from Arsenal. You know, the key names from the first team were Cedric, as we know, Mohamed El Neni. So you do still need to replace these players in the squad because in many games this season, these guys have been on the bench. So you need to still replace that option unless you're bringing through the academy players like an Ethan Nwaneri, for example, who I think is primed to now sit in a position of maybe a Fabio Vieira, if he gets moved on, like in my opinion he probably should, of a Smith Rowe. And we'll talk about Smith Rowe. There's heavy links coming out linking him to Fulham. What do you think of that? Smith Rowe to Fulham. Fulham's actually a good team. I didn't actually think of Fulham when I was thinking of potential suitors. I was actually thinking of maybe a Crystal Palace, a West Ham, maybe an Everton. But Fulham actually makes sense. You know, he wouldn't have to move too far. It's still a London team. It's still a very, very good side. And I think Smith Rowe for Fulham would be brilliant. If they can hang on to Paulinho as well, they would have a very, very strong midfield with Smith Rowe slotting in there. So I actually think, you know, if I was Smith Rowe, I'm probably looking at Fulham and saying, you know, this is a good team. I don't expect them to be in danger next season in terms of relegation. Can we actually push on and try and get some a European spot? I think they have the ability to do that. And it depends what price. What do you consider a fair price for Smith Rowe? Look, all of us like Smith Rowe. We always like the Hale graduates. You probably never want to see them go, but there comes a point when you're looking at Smith Rowe, and I actually like the player. That's the thing. I look at Smith Rowe and I think he does have quality. I think he does have a moment of magic. If we're being honest, Mikel Arteta probably doesn't trust him this season, it would seem, maybe as much as some of the other players that he's brung in. You know, Smith Rowe seems to have been right down the pecking order. You look at that game against Luton, man of the match, you know, and then he's sort of missing for a few games, and then he doesn't really get many opportunities after that. So you're looking at it and saying, look, he's a good player, I like him, but I think if Arsenal get a bid of anywhere between 30 to 40 million pounds, I think they're probably going to need to consider it, and I think Edu would probably look at it and say, look, if I can get some money in for Emile Smith Rowe, who isn't in the plans, evidently, because he's not really been used. And if I can invest that money in a different player, then it makes sense. You know, how many of you out there, if you look at it like this, how many of you out there would swap Emile Smith Rowe for Youssouf Fofana? And that's the way you got to look at this. Youssouf Fofana's price is 20 million. Emile Smith Rowe could be anywhere from, like I said, 20 to 40 million. So if you're asking many Arsenal fans out there, would you straight swap Emile Smith Rowe for Fofana? You'd probably say yeah, and that's the way we need to look at it. You kind of need to, at points, lose sentimentality just because you like the player. If it's for the furtherment of the team, you probably need to look at it and say, right, okay, I understand this player probably does need to go so we can bring some fresh players in. Like I said, we've got a squad to build. We've probably got so many players leaving in this summer transfer window. There will be players that we're going to need to bring in for 20, 30, 40 million. If I'm being honest, look, I'm hearing news coming out of Arsenal that Arsenal are not looking to spend for that marquee signing. We're probably not going to go out there and spend that 100 or in excess of 100 million pound. Look, many of us would probably do that. Many of us would probably go and buy that big boy striker like Osimhen. And there has been links today between Napoli and Arsenal. You know, apparently Osimhen is very interested in joining Arsenal, but that goes against what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Arsenal don't want to be spending that crazy money on one player. We do need to build out the squad. We've got a few different positions that we need to bring reinforcements in. And if you go out there and spend £100 million on one player, you're limited with what you can do with the rest of the squad. But the rumours that are coming out today is Napoli, you know, are happy to let Osimhen go if they can get the fee. And maybe they would be happy to consider Tomiyasu as part of the swap deal, of Emile Smith Rowe as part of the swap deal. What do you guys think of that? Let me know. Would you be interested in bringing Osimhen in? I think the answer from many of you guys would be, well, yeah, because he's a brilliant player. But if it means getting rid of Smith Rowe and Tomiyasu, would you be happy with that? Would you be happy of leaving Sesko or Gyökeres or Isak and going for Osimhen? Look, Osimhen at times seems unbelievable. And this is coming from someone who watches, you know, Napoli sometimes. I watch Osimhen sometimes, maybe not as much as some of you guys. But at times I look at Osimhen and I think you are incredible. But if I'm being honest, there's times where I look at Osimhen and I think you're not quite world class. Like, he's obviously not Mbappe level. Yeah, and then I'm looking at him and he does get good numbers and I think he would improve Arsenal. But would you be willing as an Arsenal fan to put aside over £100 million and go and buy Osimhen? Let me know in the comment section. Also, Raphinha to Arsenal. This is a link that's not going away, is it? Ever since he was at Leeds, the link between Arsenal and Raphinha has been prevalent in pretty much most transfer windows. Even in the season he went to Barcelona, the very next year it was Arsenal are interested in Raphinha again. Is this just one of them links that kind of never seems to go away? You know, at times, Arsenal always are linked with players and the link just continues year after year after year. Are we going to see that with Raphinha? Or do you think this is actually a possibility? Are you looking at Raphinha and thinking, no, this could be the perfect time for Arsenal to bring him in? He maybe doesn't get as many minutes at Barcelona as he would like. And could that change if he came to a team like Arsenal? Look, I don't know. He certainly wouldn't be coming into Arsenal and being a first choice. Let me know your thoughts on Raphinha. Would you be happy if Arsenal signed Raphinha? You know, he's 27 years old. The figure being quoted is £34 million. So again, you're not breaking the bank to sign him. If I got offered Raphinha at £34 million, I would snap it up personally. I think he's a good player. Is he as good as Saka? No. Is he as good as Trossard on his day? Maybe even not. In terms of numbers, I probably think Trossard's more prolific than a Raphinha. But if you can bring Raphinha in for £34 million and just use him as a Reece Nelson replacement, but you would need to give him more minutes than a Reece Nelson, for example, because Reece Nelson didn't really get that many minutes. But I think if you can bring Raphinha in, that would be a solid backup to Bukayo Saka. And that would be a deal that I would be very, very interested in. Let me know your thoughts on Youssouf Fofana. Let me know your thoughts on Osimhen. Is that a deal that you would consider? Smith Rowe, Tomiyasu. I don't think these are guys that we're going to be selling. Certainly Tomiyasu. Smith Rowe, I think, is definitely on the market. Raphinha, would you be happy if Arsenal bring him in? Let me know in the comment section. Thanks so much to everyone for watching and listening. And before you go, if you could just quickly do me the favour, give me a thumbs up on this video. Just like it and subscribe. And I'll speak to you all in tomorrow's video. Gooners, have a good day.